Hello everybody, welcome to MKA's Tax Siksha. Today we are gonna learn about how do we create a new user in Linux with home directory, the user having a default login shell, and also giving the sudo privileges to the new user that we will be creating. Let's get started. Oh yes, before we get started, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. Please hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon as well so that you get notified for the new videos. Alrighty then, let's get started. I am logged in as a root user on this server called Catchy2. Um, the command to add a new user is user add, right? Let's say we want to add a user called small, right? User add small. I hit this enter button. The user is already added. It did not complain, so it went well. Let's set up a password with for this new user that we created. It's PASSWD and password for which user? So we say for the small user, right? It will prompt us for the new password. Okay, give a new password there. It will ask us to retype the new password just to double check and confirm that we remember the password, and that's it. Okay, so it says password updated successfully. A new user has been created and password has been updated for that user. Alrighty. Now let's switch to that user and see if the new user was created or not. We type in su, that is switch user, and then go to switch user. Which user? Small user. Okay, small user. We are in there. If I type who am I, it will tell me that you are a small user, right? We see this shell because by default this user has been given a shell, the login shell. um, if I type in bash, if I want to use a bash shell for this user, for this user, I type in bash and I hit enter. You see there, um, it now shows me like small at catchy2, right? Small is a user, catchy2 is the server name. If I now go and press and cd, right? Cd like this is the default for home. It will complain that there is no such directory or file called as home small. So remember, we created a user, but the home directory for this user isn't created, right? So we want to create a user having that home directory as well. So let's create another user and see if that user has that home directory or not. We will have to change something, we will have to add something to a command, but we can learn this together. Alrighty then. um, let's say the command is user add. Okay, now I type in option M. I give it as hyphen M, and then I say I want to create a medium user. Already, user add hyphen m and medium. Okay, it did not complain, everything went fine, a user has been created. Let's set up a password here. Password, and the username is password for which user? So it's medium. I enter new password. Okay, let's give some password, retype the password. Let's retype the password, and it says password updated successfully already. Now I am gonna switch to that user, switch user, and go to medium. Yes. Who am I? It will say you are medium user. Let me go to the bash shell. Okay, by default it brings me to the root directory, but I will try changing it to home directory. And yes, you can see that I have the home directory. How do I check that? I can give pwd, that is present working directory, and it says that you are inside the directory called slash home slash medium. So we did not create this directory, right? So it got created when the user got created because we specified it with an option called -m. You might have already noticed that when creating the user and then switching that user like to medium, every time we had to type in this bash option, right? Otherwise the bash shell wouldn't log in. So we will create another user having an home directory and also a default login shell. Get started. um, the command to add the user is user add. Okay, we want to add a large user now, but we want an home directory, so we give us option of like -m. We also want to set a default login shell, so we give options like this way -s bin bash, and then hit enter. No complaints, user has been added. Let's set a password. Password for which user? For large user? Yes. Let's give some password, retype the password, and password has been updated successfully. Now, let's switch to this user. Remember, now when I switch to large user, I should by default get a bash shell, login shell for this user. Switch user to large, and yeah, there you go. There was no need for me to enter that bash command to get that bash login shell for this user. And let's verify if the home directory was also created for this user. Let me change to a home directory and let me print out the present working directory. Yes, it is home large. So we have created three users. First user was not having the default login shell, also not having the home directory. The second user that we tried creating, the medium user, did have the home directory but no default login shell. And here we created a large user having all of the above. Like the large user had the home directory, the default login shell. Now we will be creating another user who will be having the default login shell, the home directory, as well as sudo privileges. So let's try and see if this user has sudo privileges or not, the large user. Let me go to sudo and try running the command sudo apt update, right? Okay, it will ask me for a password and enter the password that we created, and it says large is not in the sudoverse file. Let's also verify for the medium user. Let's try running sudo uh, apt large, sorry, sudo apt update, right? It will ask for a password. Remember the password, and I just entered the password, and it will again complain that medium is not in the sudoverse file. So we created a user, right? But that user does not have sudo privileges. So how do we create a user and straight away give that newly created user sudo privileges? Okay, let's do that. Create another user. User add is the command to add a user. User add, let's give it a name extra large. Okay, but wait, we want to create a home directory as well, so we add that option um, uh, -m. We also want to set a default login shell for this user, so it's bin bash, and we want to add this user to a group called sudo so that this user has sudo privileges. Alrighty. The command looks good, no complaints. Let's set up a password. Password for which user? It's extra large. New password. Give an password there. Retype the password. Password updated successfully. Already. Switch user to X large. Remember, we should be getting a bash shell by default for this user. Um, we should be able to change a directory to the home directory. The home directory should exist for this user, and also we should be able to run some commands with sudo privileges. Okay, let's have a look. Switch user to extra large. There we go. The default shell is bash. Let's change directory to home. Present working directory is who am I? Of course, it's x large, extra large. Let's try running sudo commands. Sudo apt upgrade. It will ask for a password, extra large. There you go. You are able to run sudo commands as well with this new user. Okay. Okay. So I think this was helpful. Please let me know in the comment section below if you like this video and if you would like to learn more about this. And also don't forget to subscribe the channel. Thanks for watching.